It's AidenOBrien opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. AidenOBrien by.
Boylesports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boylesports, this is betting.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 55 of the Champ.ie podcast for the season. Joined by the Golden Groome once again and Steve Hamilton. So, lads, welcome to the show. It's our final episode until August.
Yeah, good to be here. Good classic action to look forward to. Love Epsom now, I have to say, both the Oaks and the Derby. So, we'll give it a good rattle for the last one for a while.
Super. And anyone wants to check out Steve's website, just to let you know, obviously, that's his details up on screen. It's been a fantastic addition to the show. We'll be back, hopefully, when we rattle on with the National Hunt podcast in the early stages next season. Lads, 5 races to look forward to. We have, of course, the Oaks on the Coronation Cup on Friday, the Surrey Stakes, and, of course, the feature race on Saturday is the Derby at 1:30. So, 5 casts. We do have a winner to announce at the end of the show for the last episode, and we'll announce the winner of this week's 5 cast in the comments section, as we do want to get that person sorted for a Boylesports free bet. So make sure to get your 5 selections in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we look forward to producing many more videos in conjunction with our sponsor Boylesports for the new season. So thanks once again to them also. Steve, I suppose we might as well start with the first race that we're going to have a look at, which is on Friday, and it is the Coronation Stakes. Small field. I have it between Westover and Hurricane Lane. What did you make of it?
Do you? Small field, but high quality, really high quality. And you think with Westover and Emily Upjohn, the filly, both of them arguably were unlucky in the Derby and Oaks respectively last year, weren't they? Westover finishing really strongly, and Emily Upjohn, I think, was in front, a stride or 2 past the line. I'd assume if you left Emily Upjohn out, Barry, it was because you've got a slight reservation with the ground. That's what I've got with her. That was the excuse put forward when she disappointed in the King George last year. But they will be putting as much water as they can on the track. And I can't think that John Gosden would run her if he thought that it would be too much of an inconvenience. So I wouldn't completely leave her out. Hurricane Lane burst back to form with the cheek pieces on for the first time. He had run shocking on his reappearance run, but that last run in the Jockey Club Cup, he absolutely dotted up. And if you remember the season before last, I think in 2021, he only just got beat in the Arc. So he's a high quality animal. I think you can make a solid case for each of the 3 of them. I think Point Lonsdale has got a bit to prove. And I think the ground could be a major issue with that one, but stepping up in trip may suit. And I think the German horse has got a lot to improve as well to figure. So I could easily go each of 3, the 3 horses. If I had to have, or if I do favour one, I think it's Westover. I just remember that performance in the Derby, and it's had that run in Maidan a couple of months ago. Should be, I think this has been the target. And forced to have a pick, it'd be Westover, but it wouldn't surprise me if any of the 3 of them won.
It's probably the closest thing to a machine I've ever seen, Equinox. So that form is obviously very, very good for Maidan. He's had a bit of a break since then, as you mentioned, unlucky in the Derby last season. Probably the rightful favourite Westover, Mr. Groome. And I suppose we have 2 Irish derbies in the lineup here. Hurricane Lane, Steve mentioned the cheap pieces for the first time. That seemed to bring out a lot of improvement, but also to mention he's unbeaten on good ground, 4 from 4 on good ground. So I think ground was the issue, maybe, Steve, on his reappearance run. And I thought 7-2 was too big. What did you think, Ron?
Of that trio, he'd be the one I'd side with. I would agree with you there, Basil. Like you forget how high class he was as a 3-year-old. Even in Derby itself, he had a pretty rancid experience. He lost both his front shoes and tried to get after Adiyar, and he ran a big race, and then obviously came over and won the Irish Derby, and he went from strength to strength that season. He won the St. Leger. He won over in France in the Grand Prix de Paris. He was really impressive there, and he was only touched off on an arc as well. So he was high class. Last season was a bit of a disappointment, but he was back to something near his best last time, I think, although he didn't have much to beat on the day, but it represented at least a step in the right direction. And I think he's back on track now. Westover, for sure, that run in Dubai was a huge run, and obviously he has the former around Epsom as well, having done it in the Derby last year. He was unlucky, probably.
Very unlucky. He would have won.
Yeah, probably go close to at least second anyway. And I don't think it's an absolute outrageous statement to say he would have gone close to winning either. And I know Rafe Beckett thinks the same about that. So, and the run in Dubai was huge and bodes well for the season. The one of the trio at the top there I'd probably be against is Emily Upjohn. Just reading the quotes from the Goslins, I just feel like the preparation for the season hasn't gone exactly to plan, and maybe she might just need this. Although obviously her run in the Oaks here was a big run behind Tuesday.
On her best form with Emily Upjohn, though, and Steve, this is just a question, I suppose, for both of you. On her best form, she's still going to have to improve, isn't it? And it is her first run of the season.
But she gets that weight allowance being the mare. And I don't think we've seen the best of her. Obviously, those disappointing performances after the Oaks run, but then she came back and she dotted up, didn't she, in the mares and fillies at Ascot, the champions meeting. She won really well there, and I think she's certainly got further improvement to come. I suppose, strictly speaking, what you're saying, form actually achieved, maybe she's got a little bit to find, but I wouldn't have said by much. And also, just what you just mentioned about Hurricane Lane with that reappearance run on soft ground, I'm not too sure about that. I think the horse goes on soft ground. It was such a bad run. For the life of me, I couldn't work out how it could run so bad. As a matter of fact, the Gosden horse has done it subsequently, but run so bad, and then it recaptured the form with some headgear on. It was incredible. I'm trying to think of the name of the Gosden horse that did it. I know. We'll come to it in the next race, as a matter of fact. And I can mention it then.
Sorry, I didn't even get to. I just wanted to quickly mention Point Lonsdale. I agree with Steve that he does have a bit to prove, a bit to find, but I think he can find it. Like, he raced really lazily at Chester, and probably was all at sea around that sort of course. Ryan Moore was niggling him along all the time, but he still won. And he beat Visualization before that, who'd went on to win the Morris Bridge. Both those runs over 10 furlongs. I think he's a more or less surefire improver for 1.5 miles. He's a full brother to Groome, and I think he'll improve for good ground as well. Like all the chat about him last season was he was, really, really right to the top of the pecking order of the Ballydoyle Colts, right up there with Luxembourg as well. And he's had a good start to his season, if not absolutely really impressive. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did make a step up. And I think we might be sleeping a bit on the German horse here. Like, I'm not going to suggest that I know anything about German form, but the handicappers do, and they had this horse Tunes, Peter Schergen's Tunes, as the second best horse in Germany last season. He was 4 pounds off Torquator Tasso, who's obviously shown himself to be high class in European Group 1s like the Arc. He had a little prep run first time out. I'm pretty sure it was a prep run. Pretty sure I read that from the trainer. And he'd actually gone out to Japan for the Japan Cup, and there was an excuse for his run there. He finished mid-division, but there's no disgrace in that at all. The Japanese racing is probably of the highest standard now around the world. He's a 14-1 shot here. Like, I'm actually going to have a few quid on him, very small bet, because I think the betting's pretty locked up towards the top, but I could see him shortening. I think he's just a case of people don't know the form, they're not rating the German form at all. But on ratings, he's right up there. He finished last season off a rating of 120, which would be probably the highest out of this lot. Now, granted, he's gone down 2 pounds for his comeback run, but he's still right there off a mark of 118 if the handicappers have him right, and he's a 14-1 shot. So the trainers obviously come over to Britain before with Daydream and done really well. So I think there's enough there to have a little go at him at 14-1.
There you go. Westover for Steve. Ronan has the crowd hat on him, and I'm going to go with Hurricane Lane. And odds of 7-2. I think he should be clear second favourite at this stage. Right. That was a pretty long preview, lads, of the coronation. We're going to rattle on and take a look at the 4:30 at Epsom on Friday. It is, of course, the Oaks. Now, I suppose a little bit of statistics for you. In the last 10 years, AidenOBrien has won 6 of these Oaks, and the 3 of the other 4 have gone to Gosden. So once again, Ronan, I'll come to you. It looks a straight shootout once again. What do you think?
I would have thought so. I'm not really a fan of Running Line. It's the third favourite there. I think she has a bit to prove over the trip. Save the Last Dance. Like it's. I was on the call with AidenOBrien yesterday. A press call for both the Oaks and the Derby, and everyone was just obviously asking about this filly. And it's hard to get away from how impressive she looked. She looked to be, as Aiden said himself, she looked to be quickening rather than just going less slow than the rest of the rivals, which is usually how happens when you get a big margin victory like that. She's actually quickening away from them. She won by 22 lengths. Sometimes you see those runs and you think, Jesus, it's too good to be true. And maybe it was to an extent, but it's hard to argue with her not being favoured here. Soul Sister is very impressive. The only thing I'd just say about Save the Last Dance actually is she's a daughter of Daddy's Little Darling. I don't know if either of you recall her run in the Oak. Well, she didn't run in the Oaks. She was due to run in the Naples Oaks, and the Thunder and Lightning there. She bolted down to the start, and Olivia Pezier decided to jump out the side door because she just couldn't control her. I'm not suggesting Save the Last Dance has any sort of temperament issues, or indeed it's going to be Thunder and Lightning tomorrow at Epsom, but it is interesting. And the other thing I've heard people crab her is soft ground. I wouldn't be too worried about that at all. I think it's just circumstantial. She's run on soft ground so far. I think she'll be fine on quick ground. I think she'll be hard to beat. And although I do obviously respect Soul Sister, she's really impressive in the Musadora. And I find it hard to make a case other than that. So I'll not go on more, but I think Save the Last Dance will win.
Yeah, I've heard the ground mentioned. Obviously, her the pick of her form is obviously on heavy and soft ground. But like you, Ronan, given her American pedigree on the dam side, she's by Galileo. It's hard to see how she's not going to potentially even improve for better ground. The question I'd have about her, Steve, is the actual form. I mean, what has she beaten? And has the race fallen apart a little bit at Chester? 23 lengths the winning distance. I personally think Soul Sister might have achieved more last time out.
Well, it was a national hunt winning distance on heavy ground, wasn't it? And that's why I'm suspicious of it. And although both of you have said about no issue with better ground, for horses to perform to their best on both surfaces is very unusual. That they're absolutely top class if they can do it. So I'm not saying that she can't, but I do have reservations about her. Whereas I think Soul Sister, that performance in the Musadora at York, I thought was really impressive. Both horses I put down as, big improvers, Save the Last Dance and Soul Sister. But out of the pair of them, I do favour Soul Sister. I provisionally priced this up when I did it last night, and I put Soul Sister in favourite simply because I thought the manner of that performance, after, again, a horse, the one that I was mentioning, the Gosden horse that had run shocking on its reappearance, all of a sudden, she came to life. I think, again, they blame the ground. I wouldn't be too sure on the ground. There seemed to be something wrong with her on that reappearance run, but that certainly wasn't in evidence when she won at York. And I think she's got a real big chance of overturning Save the Last Dance. I was really impressed with her at York.
I would have to agree with you, Steve, fully about Soul Sister. And he's ran her over the wrong trip, on the wrong ground, on her season reappearance, 7 furlongs. And Gosden's quotation afterwards was, effectively, it was just a piece of work for her. He didn't say that exactly, but something along the same lines. And I just love the way she's hit the line. She's done a really nice turn of foot last time out.
I don't know did you see that they were interviewing? I think it was Neil Hannity was interviewing Gosden straight after the win when he was walking along through the paddock, and he has a certain way of saying things, doesn't he, Gosden? But you could tell he was pretty shocked, I think, with the manner of that victory. I don't think he was expecting her to perform to that level. I think they were expecting her to run well, but she did win very comfortably.
She absolutely, she wasn't stopping at the line as well. You'd have to think, just looking at her pedigree, that stepping up and trip again, to the 1.5 miles from 1.2 miles. is going to suit her. So I would be strongly in Soul Sister's camp as well as you, Stephen. There's probably lots more to come from her. It's a proper middle distance pedigree as well. So yeah, Soul Sister, I think certainly Gosden's form is 27% strike rate in the last fortnight. He's absolutely firing in the winners. So coming into this meeting in real good form. So absolutely, yeah, with Soul Sister in the Oaks. Surrey Stakes, lads. Steve, what did you think?
Well, the favourite here we've got is Holguin, who, after running an excellent race at Haydock, you wondered why Connections didn't find a really good handicap for it, because it's been hiked up in the handicap for that performance. I tried to find holes in the run, to be honest with you, because I thought, where's that improvement come from? But the form looked really sound. There was no denying. If anything, I thought he just got a little bit out of pace, was being pushed along, and because of that, he got hemmed in. But he switched, and then the horse stayed on really strongly and basically got headed on the line. And I do think that sets the recent form standard. What you have got is a couple of horses, if they come back to their 2-year-old form, you can certainly make good cases for them. Streets of Gold being the prime one. It won the big sales race at York. And I think it was 5 out of 5 last year that it won as a 2-year-old. So if he came back to that level of form, you'd have to consider him, but he was very disappointing on the reappearance at Newbury. Secret Angel I left in, Olivia Meralda, who's having its second run for Roger Varian. Again, off of last year's form, you can make a case for it, but it was well beaten in 1,000 guineas. So I wouldn't want to oppose Holguin. I think that looked an improved performance, and I think it should carry on progressing. I see no reason why it shouldn't. I don't think the ground should be an issue. A little bit of a doubt maybe, because it was softer ground at Haydock. But as I say, Epsom will be well watered. It won't be firm. But yeah, Holguin I wouldn't care to oppose.
Yes, he have a short price favourite Holguin, as you mentioned, Stephen. He's 11-8. He's finished second on his last 3 starts. Seems to find one that can just go past him. Now, I'm just thinking, obviously, it is a fair level of form. He's the top rated in the field of 108. Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy. Clear form. So I'm going to take a flyer here on one at a big old price. It's still a double figure price. And he just really caught the eye for me when winning at Kempton on his most recent start. He's 3 from 3 on the all-weather. He's a big price. He's named He's a Monster. And I'll never forget the commentator after the line. He said, well, he could well be a monster. Well named this He's a Monster. Son of No Nay Never. He's been gelded since that latest run. He's progressed on the all-weather, as I've mentioned, and won on handicap debut off 78, went up to 85. And you want to see this horse before the prelims. Archie Watson and Holly Doyle teaming up here on He's a Monster. This horse was acted the brat before the race. Throughout the race, he was an absolute handful. And the ability he showed to go and win as snug as he did, I thought this horse must be talented. Now, he's had a little bit of a break. He's been gelded. And he comes in here off, he's £17 to find officially with the favourite. But I just thought in a race that, for me, it's wide open in behind Holguin. I just thought at a double figure price, he was an interesting type. And I think he could be talented. So I'm going to side with him each way here in the race, that I think you can have an each way bet against the short price favourite. There's 9 runners. So I'm going to side with He's a Monster because I think he's good. And yeah, that was my thoughts on this one. Ronan, anything stick out?
Yeah, I like Olivia Meralda, I have to say. I think the betting will kind of, between the two of them, will shorten up, or they'll come closer together when we get closer to the off. So I think she might be worth playing. Even if you want to play her each way now, you can. She's around the 5-1 mark. I actually think her run in the Guineas was quite good. She ran in the Queen Mary last season. She was a real speedy filly. She eventually went up to 7 furlongs. She was only touched off by Meditate in a Group 2 at the Curragh. The name escapes me now, but that Group 2 7 furlong contest usually leads into the Moyglare. That was a really big run. Meditate's obviously a real speedy filly on good ground. And that was probably her best run as a 2-year-old for Michael Callahan. She went over to Roger Varian since, and a mile on soft ground at Newmarket, she showed up quite well for most of the way, and she finished in around Meditate again. and we obviously seen that Meditate can improve. A different set of conditions has led to a significant improvement from her back at the Curragh, and I had her down as a possible Jersey Stakes filly after that race, and instead she comes here. Obviously, Respect Holguin on that run at Haydock was very good, but it was just one run. And he's got a big old rating now. He's got a big old lift in the ratings for that, and maybe you want to see it again. In any case, Olivia Meralda with the allowance is actually coming out best on ratings here, and you can back her at 5-1. It just seems like a little bit too big to me.
Boylesports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boylesports, this is betting.
Right, lads, Derby and Diamond Stakes on very, very early on Saturday. We're going to start with the Diamond Stakes at 12:50. Derby at 1:30, of course, this weekend. And moving on to Epsom on Saturday. It's over a mile, this Diamond Stakes. Group 3 contest, 12:50, 8 runners, and a 6-4 favourite at the top of the market. With or against, Mr. Steve?
I wouldn't be against it, because that last run, it was pacemaker for Adyar in that race. That's what we were led to believe anyway. But I do feel that form as it stands does set the recent form standard. You can go back and you can make a case for Regal Reality certainly on the pick of his form. He was a really decent horse, but for me now, he's got a bit to prove after disappointing on the reappearance. I thought that was a disappointing run at Newmarket. The horse is an 8-year-old now as well, so he's as good. He's not going to improve, put it like that, and I'm not sure he's as good as he once was. You've got some handicap form that you can make a case for Escobar as well. But I do feel that Highland Avenue, that recent run does set the standard. As I say, a couple of the others could come back to their best. If that's the case, there would be live dangers. But I think he's going to be up there. He'll make the running. There's a small field. He'll be able to dictate. Buick on board. I think they've chosen a really good Group 3 that the horse is capable of winning, and I think he can win this.
Ronan? I've muted you.
Apologies. I don't have a huge fancy, so I'm not going to go on about it. I like the run, as Steve said, that run, if you can believe it for sure, of Highland Avenue, it sets a significant standard here, and if he runs that again, he win. But that was his first run in 400 days, so I'd be probably want to watch him again before he's up to that standard for sure. I'd give a quick mention to Imperial Fighter. Disappointing the last twice, especially his first run on heavy ground, but he was a good colt last season. He was third in Irish Guineas. He's pretty smart form. If he came back to that, I think he'd have a chance. I think he can maybe excuse his last run behind Mutasabek. They tried to just try something different and try a new set of ground. He had to race on his own, basically on the stand side the whole way up there. Didn't work out at all. I think he can put a line through that run, and I think he can put a line through both of his runs this season now. And I know if buts and you need to take a lot on trust, but you're getting a bit of a price at 14-1, so I'd give him a chance.
Yeah, there's a horse in here at 7-1, and I thought it did have a squeak. Colsai, Roger Varian's runner. I thought he got into all sorts of trouble when he was a beaten favourite last time out at Goodwood on good to soft ground, and his first run of the season was on good to soft ground as well. This Colsai, son of Oasis Stream, he ran into Canberra Legend. Now he just ran him down late in the contest at Newmarket on a season reappearance. That was over a mile and a furlong. Looking at his pedigree, I think definitely back to a mile is going to suit this horse. He was a winner over 7 furlongs at Newmarket on good ground last season. So I think he's proven he can handle undulations. And I think going this way around in a smaller field where he's not going to have as much traffic problems. I thought he ran a cracker to finish second last time at Goodwood, given the trouble that he got into in running. And I thought it was a pretty big run on his season reappearance as well. Colsai, he was a horse I liked last season on his debut when he was just touched off. He went off 4-1 behind John Chard, VC at Leicester over the 7 furlongs. And Obviously took a step forward at Newmarket last season to win his maiden. And I think he's a decent sort. He's rated 102. He has to come up to Highland Avenue's level, but he wouldn't be without his chance for me. That's Colsai, Roger Varian's runner, David Egan on board. So that's the race before the Derby. We're going to move on to the 130, which is the featured race for me, lads, of the season. I just love the Epsom Derby. I always did. Steve, what do you make of the 2023 edition, the Epsom Derby?
Well, my first thoughts as a punter, with the favourite being August Rodin, that's in at 11-4. I don't know how you can back it unless you're in with AidenOBrien and the horse is sparkling and beating everything at home off the back of that Guinness performance, where really the horse was tailed. There was, I think, 2 others finished behind it, but it was tailed off, and it didn't really show a great deal, I didn't think. And if you go back to the 2-year-old form, it's all on soft stroke, heavy ground, and yet it's 11-4 for the Derby, stepping up in trip, quicker ground, disappointing reappearance. I don't know how it's market leader, but people a lot wiser than me, involved with the AidenOBrien stable, probably do know a little bit more than what I'm suggesting, and maybe the horse will absolutely blossom, stepping up to 1.5 miles. That's all if. I couldn't get it at that type of price. I think the favourite should be Military Order. I think Military Order has got the form there. It's proven, even on albeit on the all-weather at Lingfield, that it stays the 1.5 miles. I thought it won that quite comfortably. I think that form's okay. It beat Wapiro, that reopposes. I don't think that can turn the form around. The Irish horse that I did take a real liking to that won was Spreewell, the Jesse Harrington horse. I thought he was impressive. Slight reservation, though, would be the ground with that horse, but I tend to think it might be okay. And out of all, just the other one I wanted to mention, out of the 2,000 guineas, where we said that August Rodin was well beaten, Dubai Mile finished in front and ran really well and seemed to get outpaced to me and then was staying on at the end. So I wouldn't completely discount that a double figure price. It's around a 14-1 shot. But the 2 that I like the most are Military Order and Spreewell. They would be the 2 that I would expect big runs from. And I think, as I say, betting wise, I thought Military Order should be favourite. What type of price it should be, though, with the unknowns and the possible improvers, I'm not too sure. But I wouldn't be against it, put it that way.
Ronan Groome into the hot seat for the Derby.
Yeah, an intriguing race. Just pick up on Auguste Rodin, I guess that is, he shapes the race, I guess, and he's certainty to go off favourite, I think. I appreciate what Steve's saying about, maybe some people know more about us, but in fairness to AidenOBrien, he's more or less, his confidence in his colt has been more or less unwavering since he was a 2-year-old, since he basically won at Leopardstown on the Champions Juvenile Stakes. There was a real kind of, I don't know, I watched it live when he won the Virgin Maturity, and I always, you know what you get with Aiden after the race, he does the same, kind of says the same stuff and thanks everyone, but I don't know, maybe I'm way off the mark here, but just saw a real glint in his eye about this horse, like he's a real special type of bred horse. He's by Deep Impact, obviously, and Aiden was saying he's out of what he thinks is one of the best ever Galileo mares. So obviously both those sires are passed away now, and they obviously think a lot of this colt, he could be that type of Derby like that type of stallion prospect that they need now with Galileo gone, and obviously you have to win here. And then like Exhibit A as well for listening to, having belief in what O'Brien is saying, and came last weekend when Luxembourg, obviously 5th first time out, disappointing. O'Brien was never ever just put off by that, and he comes back and wins the Tatterstalls Gold Cup. And Little Big Bear, who was last in the Guineas, dropped down to 6 furlongs again, goes and wins at Haydock handsomely as well. So I think the punters have taken a lot of confidence from that as well. So I can see why he's favourite. That all said, I'm not going to suggest backing him or anything. I don't like Military Order. For all that, he's a real unique type of horse. He's bidding to become the first full brother in 120 years to go and win the Derby, which is a bit of a mad stat. Lots of half brothers have obviously done it, but he's a full brother to AidenOBrien. I just don't like the all-weather form. I don't like that as a Derby prep run. Passenger is a horse I'll never back. Just that type of profile, that unlucky profile, always under bet and looks underpriced again here at 6-1. For all that his run was good in the Dante, I just don't think it was as good as the market says it was. And I agree with Steve. There's 3 I like, which I'll narrow down to 2. The 3 I like are Spreewell, DuBois, and White Birch. Spreewell, I was at Leopardstown when he won the Derby trial. Kate Harrington, he was really impressive firstly there. He pulled well away. I think that form is above the Ballysacks. Kate Harrington said afterwards, I think this colt could be the best they've had. But she was also unsure about him going to the Derby. She thought would sit down, maybe to go to France. But she did say the owner was really keen on going to the Derby. So I'm just wondering, is the 1.5 miles, did they really in their heart of hearts feel he'll definitely stay? Or maybe it's more on hope. DuBois Mile, I love the Guineas as a prep for the Derby. The Guineas is the best Derby trial. No disrespect to the race, but it's better than all the other trials, I think, down the years. It's proven time and time again. And DuBois Mile did really well there to finish 5th, and he's obviously a Group 1 winner over 10 furlongs, where he beat Arrest over in St. Cloud. So if he stays, I think he has a huge chance. And White Birch, with Colin Keane booked, I think is the most overpriced of them all. He'd be my main selection in the race, the one I put into the 5 cast. He did really well to win first time out on just his 3rd start in the Ballysacks. And I thought he did really well to even finish 2nd over in York. He missed the break that day. Took him a while to get going. Colin Keane, I was just literally off the phone with him. Asked him what he thought of the run, and he said, yeah, like a horse that came going from soft ground to quick ground, he felt that it just took him really a while to get going and get into the race. But once he got motoring, he nearly got down the winner. I think he's near certainty to stay 1.5 miles. And I'd love to see him run well for John and George Murphy as well. So he's my main selection in the race, White Birch, with an honourable mention to Spreewell and DuBois Mile.
Ronan, Groome, you all romantic going for those selections. I'm going with Steve here once again on Military Order, Ronan. I know you're saying obviously he'd be the first full brother to win in 100 odd years. I get that.
I'm not saying that's a negative. I'm just saying it's a unique thing. It's not a negative, of course.
I thought there was lots to like about him. Reason being, I mean, he's won on good ground, he's won on soft ground. He's won on the all-weather, he's won on undulations, and he's won going left-handed around the bend.
Barry, that just to say with the all-weather, that was by default. It wasn't supposed to be on the all-weather, was it? It was when the Lingfield was changed from the turf to the all-weather because the ground wasn't suitable. So I don't think they would have chosen that in a perfect world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I suppose looking at the race as a whole, I think you are right. I mean, you couldn't possibly, from a betting perspective, be looking to back Augusta Rodin at his current price. Now, if he was a bigger price, maybe you might consider it. He's on a recovery mission, no matter what you might say there. Passenger, Richard Kingscote's not his best moment in the Dante. In my view, he was going to go on and win the race. That being said, if he'd have won the Dante, would I be interested in backing him for this? The answer is no. 5-1, plenty short enough for him. Ulysses was all the rage for a Derby once upon a time. I know he went on to win a Group 1 over 1.5 miles, but didn't handle Epsom whatsoever. Totally bombed out. Passenger, I would worry about experience for him as well. Arrest, looking at him, I know he won at Chester, and that's quite a sharp undulating track. But for me, he won the race quite well. But I'm not sure I trust that he's the most balanced horse. It was very slow motion stuff as well at the finish. So what he achieved there, I'm not so sure. I couldn't be having, I think his rating of 115 now. I wonder, is that just a false rating? And I just think Military Order is absolutely the solid horse coming in here. Obviously has the pedigree to go and win it. At 9-2, I just thought I think you're right. I think he should be favoured. And I think he's proven himself, over the mile. He's proven himself over 1.2 miles on soft ground. And the all-weather is, I think he's proven his versatility. What I loved the most about him was Wapiro came up sides, looked him in the eye at Lingfield on the all-weather. And, Charlie Appleby has stated, all-weather, those conditions was not his ideal conditions whatsoever. Will Buick mentioned the balance he showed. He's a very well-balanced horse. But when Wapiro looked him in the eye at Walker's horse, he'd every reason to fold. and he just pulled out, ears pricked at the line. I loved just the way he went away from him again and won very, very snugly. He's a big unit, and I think he's going to improve. And I just think 9-2 is a massive price, given all that we've mentioned there. And yeah, I'd be pretty strong on Military Order. He'd be probably my best bet of the weekend in the races we've discussed. So, yeah, that's the way we'd side. Anything else, just quickly, lads, before we do wrap up episode number 55? Anything else to mention over the course of the weekend? Any entries? Anything else anything else catch the eye, Steve?
Not for me. All my concentration was done on these 5 races, Barry, and hopefully I've got a winner or 2 out of them. I'm just not sure with the prices, but certainly a couple of horses in the 2 big races, in the Oaks and the Derby. I'm fairly strong on the Oaks fancy anyway.
So best bets of the weekend, Steve? Oaks fancy, Soul Sister?
Soul Sister would be my pick, and as I said, Military Order. I think he's sure to run well, Military Order. Whether he's good enough, we'll find out. But I did fancy Soul Sister simply because I've got doubts with Save the Last on the ground.
Yeah, I'm going to nap. Simply, it's a price thing. I think it's a massive chance. I'm going to nap a Military Order in the Derby. Ronan, Groome, anything else to mention, and what's the nap of the weekend?
Nothing else to mention. I'm afraid I haven't got that far yet, like Steve. And I'll go with Olivia Meralda. I think she's well overpriced at around 5-1. And maybe my next best I'll put in as White Birch in the Derby. I think he'll run well, and I hope he does.
What a season. Thanks very much to our sponsors once again, Boylesports. Really look forward to teaming up once again next season, looking ahead to the National Hunt season from October onwards. Enjoy the hiatus, lads. It's been a fantastic season. Thanks once again to all our viewers. Cheltenham series went down fantastic once again. Look forward to the road to Cheltenham once again next season, and the Thursday podcasts. And let's drive it on from next season once again. Just a note, the 5-cast winner for last week, Stuart Edridge, Paddington and Mashore, 2 winners, and he has been awarded a €20 free bet with our sponsors, Boylesports. Quickly, lads, before we wrap up, selections for the 5-cast around the room. Make sure to get your 5-cast in. We'll announce the winner for this episode down below. And that's to the viewers. Make sure to subscribe and like the video as well to be able to chance on this week's episode. 2 winners or more qualifies you. Coronation Cup, lads. I'm going to kick it off. Hurricane Lane for me. Steve?
Coronation Cup. Hold on one second. Let me get myself sorted. Westover.
Westover. I'm going to go Hurricane Lane. Coronation Stakes, should I say. Ronan, Groome.
Tunes for me, please.
Super. Epsom Oak, Steve, Soul Sister. I'm going snap on that. Soul Sister for me. Ronan, Groome.
Save the Last Dance.
Save the Last Dance. We'll save that one for Rebecca. Next race is the Surrey Stakes. Mr. Groome, you're up.
Olivia Meralda.
And I'm Holguin.
I'm going to go with He's a Monster. I think he could be overpriced and could run a massive race. Moving on to the 12.50 on Saturday. Steve?
I'm Highland Avenue.
Fantastic. Mr. Groome?
I'm going to throw a wild one in there with Imperial Fighter.
Colsai for me in the Diamond Stakes Group 3. And the Epsom Derby, Military Order, nap of the weekend. Steve, for you, what is it?
Yeah, Military Order.
And Mr. Groome?
White Birch for me, please.
White Birch. That has been episode 55. What a season it's been, and we look forward to seeing you all in October.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a Hattons full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2-mile novices. Energumen by...
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.